So will the meeting please come to order? Thank you. Welcome, everybody. My name is Cameron Cosgrove. I'll be the chair of the meeting. And this is Commissioner Scott McCann. He's one of the members. Our other member, Stephen Camp, is not going to make it today. So 2 members, staff, applicant, audience. That's what we have in the room. We've got one item before we take on the main item, which is our minutes. So we'll just dispense with that real quick. Scott, did you have any comments on the minutes?
No, I move we approve the minutes.
I'll second that. In favor?
Aye.
Okay, so the minutes pass. All right, that takes us to really the only item we have today, which is this preliminary application for the Boca Bluffs at 320 to 326 Laramba and 312 to 314 Boca de Cannon. I want to take just a minute and just talk about what we're going to do today so we can all be on the same page. Okay, so this is a preliminary request, so it's not an application. I hope everyone understands what that means. So in order for development, to proceed as a project, an application has to be submitted to the city. That has not yet occurred. So what the applicant has requested, and this is part of the process that's available to applicants, is they can request a preliminary review of their plans before they submit their application. And that's just an opportunity for those plans to be shared with the public, get public input as well as staff input, and then member input on the design review. The design review process, just so everybody does understand that, is just advisory. We are 3 planning commissioners that are a subcommittee of the Planning Commission to do technical review of all plans that require technical review. And so that's called the design review. And we look at design elements, architecture, function, we look at compatibility, we look at city policy, and anything technical with respect to the project. And then our outcome is simply review and comments, and maybe recommendations to the applicant, which they are free to use or not use. It's advisory only. We have no real authority. We're not approving anything. We're just making comments. So for the benefit of the staff who's doing the review, for the benefit of the applicant that's doing their submission, and our goal is to align the project with our overall city character, our overall city guidelines, design guidelines. And if you look around town, there's a lot of examples of that. Because not everyone that comes to San Clemente has the same Village by the Sea, Spanish architectural, vision. So we're kind of the front line for that. So this is what I was going to suggest we do, Scott. Since this is just a pre-application review, this is what my suggestion that for the format. We more or less follow our Planning Commission standard public hearing format, and with just a small adjustment I'm going to recommend. So one, we'll hear from the city staff, our professional staff who's done a review of what this preliminary design looks like. And they're going to do their report on how it measures up against city policy. We'll hear that. Then we're going to give the applicant an opportunity to make their presentation. So we're all hearing that together. I would appreciate if you guys have questions in the audience, write them down. If you could not interrupt with, hey, what about, just write it down. Let's just keep it moving. Let everybody move through their piece. And then following the applicant presentation, then I'm going to let anybody from the member of the public make their presentation. We're very informal here because this is again a a working group. Hence, we're in the conference room. And the intent is to get into the weeds and be productive. So I'm just going to defer to you guys. If you have comments you want to make, I'll just go one by one. If you do, great. If you don't, that's fine too. I would just ask, out of respect for time, if you could just keep it limited to just the key points you want to make. For sure, under 5 minutes, 3 minutes ideally would be great.
Well,
Then,
we should put a timer on that.
We will, but I'm good. I want everyone to feel like they had their chance.
Yes.
And then I'm going to close the public comments. I'm going to ask that, and then I'm going to open it up for everyone at the table to discuss. And I want to just advise the audience that we're just going to listen to you. We're not going to go, if you have a question, we're not going to stop and get the answer and let you go back to you. So if you have questions that you're thinking, like, what about this, what about that, in your time, list out your questions. I'll take them down as best I can. And then when we're having our discussions, I'll do my best to say, hey, what about this? Hey, what about that? Everyone follow that?
But it's not a back and forth.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Right. It's not a back and forth. We're not going to respond to your questions immediately. And raise your questions, and they'll be raised for all of us collectively.
Yeah, and then
but also, here's the staff. You can direct your questions to staff after the meeting.
That's true.
Or whatever.
So once we have our discussion, then what I'm going to do is when we're all done, if anyone in the audience is left and you feel like you have to say something, I will do a lightning round of last minute. I'll let you have the last word. But I'll ask you to keep that to like a minute. Okay, so before I turn it over to staff, I just want to give the context of what this meeting is. I'm going to repeat some of it, but I just want to make sure because it's not always clear to people what the process is, and the process is really important. We're going to basically be listening and asking questions, maybe giving some comments, but it's really going to be around how did you come up with these designs? What are you trying to do? You're claiming certain things. Tell us what those claims are based on. And I think because this is so preliminary, we're not going to do what we normally do, which is get into the details of the actual real project design, because we're just seeing something very preliminary at this point. And so I just don't want people to be expecting that it's going to be that kind of thing. It's going to be more high level. Okay, so that's my opening, and that's how, we all, Scott, everyone good?
Yep.
Okay, so we have two of our key staff people here. We have Zach, we have Christopher. You guys have put some effort into this. Why don't we let you guys take it from here and do the staff presentation.
Thank you for that intro. I'm Zach Ream. I'm a principal planner here, and this is Christopher Wright, senior planner. We've also discussed this internally with other city departments over really about the past year. We discussed this project with our engineering team and with Orange County Fire staff and with any affected city staff and city departments that would end up looking at the ultimate application. But again, this is a preliminary application. So our goal has really just been to provide the applicant with preliminary feedback, which we did in a letter back in December. And then we had one meeting with the applicant in this room where we looked at their last set of plans and then revised those plans a bit to get to where we are today. And I don't have a very professional, detailed presentation. I think we'll kick it to the applicant after a few minutes and they can walk through a little bit more specific design detail. But I have about 5 slides where I'm going to show the project elements and describe the history a little bit and then show the key issues that staff have identified. And again, staff are interested in issues that the public has identified, especially if they're different. We've got a bullet point list that we've picked, and we're going to try and discuss with the applicant during this meeting. But if you have a different bullet point that you think is a key issue, we'll take that up. So the description we have here is request, again, for preliminary feedback, not approval, not specific conditions of approval, but preliminary feedback on the design, the layout, the scope of this project. Specifically a tentative tract map, which would revise the layout and the size and dimensions of 7 residential lots in order to construct 6 single-family homes, a public viewpoint atop the bluff, and then a public beach access stairway in the same approximate location where there's a public beach access now. So here's some of the zoning context from the city's GIS website. In blue there, I highlighted approximately the 7 lots in question there, and they're all surrounding a cul-de-sac atop a coastal bluff, which slopes down to the coast on one side and then slopes down to the private residential street on the other side there. The density is residential low zoning district, so right now 7 lots that could support 7 single-family homes, and the request would be for 6 single-family homes. It's not in a designated fire zone, it's not in a flood zone. The flood zone is the green area there, where presumably on a high tide day or big storm, you could see some back of the beach wave action, but they don't designate it as a flood area. It's also not designated as a coastal canyon, even in our coastal land use maps. It is obviously a coastal bluff on the bottom of that line there. There's 2 historic homes that you can see in the red shading that are to the right. One is technically adjacent on that flag lot across from one of the lots. So there's an adjacent historic home. There aren't any protected public views of that historic home. If there were any view that was significant, it'd be from the sidewalk of the private street there, but there's not a designated public viewpoint. And then also there's some short-term lodging units, which are the blue dots in the vicinity. I think one of them is within 300 feet, so per the city code, these lots wouldn't be eligible for any short-term rentals. Well, probably. We'd have to measure whether it's 300 feet to the upper 2. That's the zoning. Here's a Google view of the site, and you'll see there's a lot of informal access that's been gained by people using the private property for public viewpoints on the top portion of the bluff over the past decades. And then on the bottom portion of this image, there's an informal beach access trail that the applicant would propose to make a formalized, safer beach access trail between the bottom of Boca del Canon and the public beach access trail there. Again, obviously there's a coastal bluff on this side, which is the more higher priority resource protection and view protection. And then there's the private street where it slopes down on the inland side, which would be a lower priority, but still might have some significant environmental settings, and would really be the reason this would go through a further environmental review and is not infill exempt development. It's because of the environmental setting.
So does that mean you're proposing EIR?
We haven't decided on the level of CEQA review, but the applicant and staff have agreed that some level of CEQA review is very likely required. We don't think it's exempt.
Okay.
They would pay for the city to conduct the required analysis.
Okay.
These are the issues that staff's identified. There was a pretty lengthy comment letter that went out in December, and then there was a brief staff report that went out last week that identified these same issues. I'm hoping we can go through some of them at the meeting, and we'll pull up the plans and go back to the aerial imagery to discuss them. But most significantly, probably from the beginning, this is the 3rd or 4th iteration, different applicants, different owners, but different people have tried to do this before. And the most difficult hurdle to overcome is just the ocean fronting and bluff portion of the site and the setback from there and the geologic stability. I probably should have written the words geologic stability on the slide, but because there is an erosion activity on the site, they need to both demonstrate that it's stable and safe to build on, and then also minimize the effect of the alteration of the natural landform, which is a requirement of the city's land use plan and zoning code and also coastal commission review. So it's a fine line they'll have to walk where they have to identify it as a safe place to develop, but not overdevelop the heck out of the bluff and turn the whole thing into a bunch of concrete. They need to figure out the minimum, and they need a 25-foot setback. So that's some of the questions I think we'll want to ask, is how the applicant has done that with these preliminary plans, and CEQA review is going to have to get into that more, about essentially why this was the best alternative for developing those lots, and even why the layout of the tract map, which I'll show in a second, is the most beneficial layout to both preserve the bluff, but to enable them their right to develop homes. Secondary and a big thing for the city and the coastal commission is going to be views from the public beach and the trail, and to make sure the public can still view what looks like a natural bluff from the ocean side. It's not quite as emphasized what it's going to look like from that private street, where we would suggest there can be some more massing, but ideally less massing from the public viewpoints on the beach and the trail. Public access through the site and to top the site. Again, there's a proposal for access through, and there's a proposal for access on a public viewpoint on the top at the end of that street end. Lot sizes, right now there's 7 lots. Some of them are non-conforming as to size. The minimum lot size is 6,000 square feet for a residential lot. They've already got, I think, 3 of them that are less than 6,000, and they're proposing 2 or 3 of those 3 get even slightly smaller in order to reconfigure the development pad sites. Staff's opinion would be it'd be better if all the lot, given they're proposing a subdivision, it'd be better if the lots were 6,000 square feet each, if they could, because there's some really big ones and some smaller ones. The code would suggest that new lots in a subdivision should be 6,000 square feet. But the committee might want to discuss whether there's reasoning and a logic, and ask the applicant if there's a logic behind some of their smaller lots. It seems like the logic is to allow more open space on the coastal bluff and to have the development geared toward the inland side of the lots. Same concept as size and mass of the homes, and trying to have those be compatible in scale with the bluff itself as well as the surrounding homes. That's emphasized throughout the city's general plan and zoning code, is that new development should be in compatibility with surrounding development, both natural and other homes. And then building on those prior 2 concepts is, from the looks of it to staff, and this would be allowed by the code and by the coastal land use plan, is it looks like they're proposing reduced front setbacks, especially on the Boca del Canon private street inland side, in order to accommodate what's allowed, in order to accommodate greater oceanfront setbacks. The applicant would need to demonstrate through a write-up or an analysis that that's why they're proposing the reduced setback, is that's needed in order to allow for the greater setback on the other side. It's a trade-off. You don't get the benefit of the reduced setback unless you're providing the public benefit, or you're losing some economic right to develop on the ocean side. A big one that'll come up, I think, interested neighbors and also coastal staff and city staff, is construction staging and minimizing the amount of graded material. There's going to have to be a lot of grading in order to dig down and in and make pads and make these homes fit in with the natural slope. They're going to have to dig into the slope, ideally mostly on the inland side, not on the coastal side. But that'll be a key component for the applicant to pre-plan, and probably will come up in the CEQA review, is how they're going to remove all this graded material. And then the last thing that came up a lot on our discussion with engineering staff in the pre-development management team review was the landscape and water quality features, and making sure that the homes aren't so big that they can still fit the required water quality management, landscape, drainage features, and that most of the drainage is captured on site. Next steps for this, after the feedback from this committee, is we'll do another written feedback letter for the applicant team to go with the feedback they've gotten from staff previously. It'll have feedback from this meeting, as well as an analysis of whether this latest plan submittal has addressed most of the comments from the last plan submittal. And then it'll be a little bit up to them whether they want to do a 3rd revision, make changes in response to this hearing, whether those are minor or major. Once the applicant feels like they're in a position for a full submittal, we'll initiate the CEQA review, where the applicant will pay the city money, and the city will select environmental consultants and a firm to do a CEQA review, which comes before the full application is submitted and finalized before city review. So that'll be applicant payment, applicant and city working with outside staff that will do the analysis, whatever analysis is deemed necessary for CEQA. Once they've got a preliminary CEQA document prepared, then we'll return to, I guess I missed a bullet point, they'll resubmit a full regular application. It'll have a totally different number than this one. They'll have to answer different questions on our form. We'll go back to the development management team, where there'll be an initial review for project completeness, making sure they have all elements of a complete application. Then it'll probably come back to design review subcommittee once. It'll be up to the applicant and DRSC if one more visit's enough, or if they come twice. Planning commission for approval of most of the development permit component of the site, the design, city council approval for tract map, and coastal commission approval for all of it. So that's the process ahead of them. I'm not going to estimate a timeline, but it's not fast. It's months, if not more than months. What we're asking out of this meeting is just to keep the ball rolling and to give feedback on whether this layout is feasible and generally consistent with the issues that I laid out. And then I think what I'll do now is pull up the policies from the various city documents that relate to these issues. So this was our staff report. It was really just 2 pages to lay out the same thing I just said out loud about the context of the site, the reason for design review, just to give preliminary feedback. Here's the zoning again. Here's what they need, which is development permit, a tentative track map, and a coastal concept. And here's our analysis with those same issues. And then these are some of the relevant policies. I'm going to run through these real quick, and then we can come back to them if we have questions as we get through these specific issues. But again, achieve a mix of residential neighborhoods and housing design that's diverse and compatible with existing neighborhoods. High level of architectural landscape quality, use of different materials, landscape, building scale, variety of architecture. Do not dominate massing. And here's our coastal elements. This talks about building in harmony with the coast, protecting our marine resources, addressing stormwater and runoff, addressing archaeo-paleo resources, new landscaping. Here's the coastal land use element, which is also going to be reviewed by the Coastal Commission because this is our city's guidance document and it's meant to mirror the Coastal Act, which is the Coastal Commission's review. But the key issue there is really, again, the geology, that it's sited and designed to mitigate risks to life and property, but that also it discourages bluff and shoreline protective devices, so we don't want the entire thing to be covered in retaining walls. And then also the setback requirements from bluffs and canyon edges and bioresources shall have priority over the street setbacks. So that's the policy that allows, at the discretionary review through the development permit, it would allow, in order to have a compliant setback on the ocean side and not have the homes too close to the bluff and not have huge retaining walls, this is the policy that would allow reduced front setbacks for both the home and the garage. Down to 5 feet, minimum 5 feet, as opposed to 10 or 20. But it's not a guarantee that you get 5 feet. This policy is merely saying if you have to move your house a little bit further away from the ocean, you are allowed to have it closer to the street. General design guidelines follow the context of the neighborhood, compatible with topography, building placement, open space, more compatibility with the neighborhood. And then the zoning code, this is how you define where the bluff edge is. I would like to know a little bit more about how the applicant defined the bluff edge, and they'll have to justify that in their CEQA document and to coastal. But what they've done so far is identified where the edge of the bluff is, and then 25 feet back from there is where you can have the houses on the ocean. So you have the upward bluff, you have bluff edge, then a 25-foot buffer, and then that's where the houses are. There's really only like 2 of the houses that are butting against the oceanfront bluff edge. The other 4 are more like on the inland side. Subdivision, if the city's going to approve a new subdivision, it should be consistent with our coastal policies as well as generally with our city zoning code. If there's a reason not to be consistent with any elements of the code, it should be clearly explained, and a variance may be required if we're being asked to approve a subdivision that's inconsistent. Almost done. We got retaining walls. We talked about this a lot at Planning Commission. Is front setback retaining walls are meant to be 3 foot 6 inch high, and then elsewhere on the lot you can go up to 6 feet retaining walls. And then if the public can't really see it from the street and it's interior facing, you can go up to 8.5 feet. And if you can't accomplish a 3.6 or a 6 or an 8.6, you can do the stepped back retaining walls, which is further defined in the code here. This is what allows for a garage to be, again, both not set back and also kind of built into the hill. It says here that if you have a steep residential lot, the requirement of standard front yard setback could result in significant grading. So you can have an in-bank garage to reduce the need for massing if you want to jam your garage kind of into the natural hillside, which it looks like you're doing. So I'll mostly stop talking. I'm going to pull back up the maps and the applicant renderings, and the applicant may want to talk through those same maps and applicant renderings, the track map, and the images, and how they've defined the 7 lots and how they've defined the 6 homes. But staff is, again, not recommending a decision. We're recommending feedback on everything I just talked about, anything the public may ask about, anything you all want to give before the applicant gets closer to their final design. Christopher, do you want to say anything?
No. Okay.
I think
I guess maybe
No, if you
one
close
other
that-
comment. One other comment is
if you click
there's
that
no required
cross, next
architectural
comment,
style
and
for the neighborhood.
click
So
that
this is
cross,
like trying
next,
to
there's an
be compatible.
Not in any kind of zone.
Yeah.
You can do this.
We want this presentation.
Just stay there.
So that's going to wrap up staff's presentation. If it's the will of the committee, I just pulled up the plans and I'm going to let the applicant talk more about the plans.
Before you do that, Zach, would you just walk us through Lot A, how it's being used, garage access via Polka Day Canyon there, just before the applicant goes?
Yeah, I don't want to get it wrong, so I'm going to ask the applicant to correct me if I do. So what I was defining is essentially two homes that you're going to see more from the ocean. It's like this one and this one here. And is this what you're calling Lot A? Or you're calling Lot A the private street?
Private street.
So right now this is a privately owned street. This is the public street. It's already got a turnaround here. And this is kind of the area where the public has informally watched the sunset on the top of the bluff here. This is a privately owned road that was initially meant to be kind of a cul-de-sac here. The applicant's not proposing to use this for a bunch of driveways or a bunch of houses, or really a road very often at all. I think it might be used for maintenance or for emergency access. The driveway itself, as I understand it, for this ocean fronting lot is right here off the public street. And then this one, which you'll see from the beach, and we'll want to talk a bit about the viewpoint, is accessed from down here. This garage is down here, this garage is down here, this garage is down here, and this garage is on the side. So there's really only one that's accessed from La Rambla. This would be a pedestrian access way with a gate that we can discuss the hours of operation of that gate and the ownership and management of that gate. It's generally the city staff's opinion that it would be difficult for the city to maintain this entire Lot A, which is right now private land. It'd be kind of smaller than a traditional public park or public facility. And it would require a lot of staff attention and depending on the hours of operation and what the use of this public viewing deck ends up being. The city staff recommendation would be that this be a privatized street that's open to the public from sunrise to sunset, or maybe 30 minutes after sunset. And that the public can gain pedestrian access to this here, and that the city would have a key for emergency access or maintenance on the street, but that would be paid for and managed and maintained by an HOA between these 7 homes and would not be an extension of the public street. That's our recommendation for Lot
Yeah,
A.
before we turn up, one more thing. You keep calling that a private street. Where is the city-owned property?
Exactly.
La Rambla right here.
Yeah, and that's not a street, it's really just a pedestrian walkway.
My understanding is, and correct me if I'm wrong when you all start talking, the city ownership I think ends at this turnaround right here, La Rambla. And this has been maintained on a subdivision map by the applicant as their land that could be used for future access, but it's not being used for
Okay.
vehicle access.
Okay. I think we're gonna have to clarify that, so I'm just gonna make a note of that question. Okay, can we move the applicant, are you cool with
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
Okay, so could you guys introduce yourself, your
Sure.
team, and then make your presentation?
Okay, let me start. Cameron and Scott, thank you, and thank Chris and Zach. My name is Lee Wong. I represent this development, and we have our team here. I'll let them introduce themselves. So me as a lead consultant applicant, we have owners representative here to represent the owners, and then we have an architect, we have engineering team here. So that they introduce themselves briefly, so you guys can know them and their role.
Hi, everybody. My name is Maggie. I represent the owner of the land.
This is Henry Wang. I'm owner is my uncle, so I represent them. So yeah.
Relative.
I'm Justin Johnston with Brandon Architects.
Sorry, can you say it again? Who was that? The
Justin,
last
the
person?
architect.
Oh, Justin.
Justin, you're the architect.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm Octavio Hernandez with Brandon Architects.
What was that?
And
I'm sorry, I didn't,
Octavio with the architecture.
you're with the architect. Okay, gotcha.
And I'm Cesar Martinez with Branding Architects as well.
Okay.
And Caleb Rios with Toll Engineering, Project Civil Engineer.
Okay.
And just one note, if you can write all your names down, first and last name,
I'm just on that,
before
yeah.
before the end of the meeting. You don't, not now. Thank you.
Also, just a quick thing, if you do speak, because there's so many people in the room and it's being recorded, we have to do minutes, if you could just state your name. Again,
That'd be great.
sorry.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, let me start it. This is Lee Wang. I'm the applicant. I am a licensed landscape architect and site planner. Has been practicing this since '96. Let me start with this project. The background of this project is very unique and special because the owner is not traditional developers. The owner is residents of the United States. They just fell in love with San Clemente. They have been renting in San Clemente for years. And a couple of years ago, they found this opportunities. So they decide to build houses for their family members. So one will for himself, the other one will for his sons. And what I heard is this too may be parts of the ownership of the house as well. So that's why when we take over, we understand, and I've been working in San Clemente for 12 years, believe it or not. But so we understand. Everybody loved the views standing on that bluff, looking at the sunset, and we know this is an opportunity. We can do this plus share the view with everybody. That's why that Lot 8 private street, and now is new Lot 6, used to call Lot 28. We decide to build a public space, and we even want to build a viewing deck, so citizens of San Clemente can still enjoy the view. And then it will be paid by this development, and it will maintained by the HOA of the 6 houses. That's why we actually have 7 lots, but we are only built 6 houses. And as Zach just mentioned, only 1 house is coming from La Rambla. We only have 1 driveway there. That's the orange one, and the rest of 5 houses all access from the Boca de Cañon. Okay, so that's where we are. And then I think last year, or almost 2 years ago, feel like 2 years ago, we worked with city. We identified the edge of a top of bluff. So there's an exhibit showing that it's already established, and we make sure we're at 25 feet. We follow the setback. So those 2 houses, you see the orange one on your left and purple one in the middle, and actually the green one on the very right is all built outside the setback of top of bluff. Yeah. And then
Later, do you have where that is in your presentation, that line?
I don't have it, but we have a formal exhibit.
It's listed on the, shown on the plan.
Is it?
Yeah,
Okay.
there's a dash line. It's called.
The dash line show on that template track map, but the formal exhibit with the agreement between we and Ozan City, I have a special exhibit for that. If you want that, I can send it to
We
Zach.
will want that.
Okay.
Okay.
So now, let me pass to our civil engineer to talk about how he come up with a solution for the retaining wall, and we're just analyze that for this basically new 6 lot plus 1 public lot.
Well, I'll defer to the architect about the layout for the site because the retaining walls came as a result, basically. The building.
That's right. And one more thing before they started, per city's request, our architect has produced this nice rendering. It's basically street view from the rendering. So you guys, I know you guys all have access to the files. You can definitely take a look at that. So you guys want to start with the layout?
Sure, yeah. I'm Justin Johnson with Brandon Architects. Appreciate y'all being here. You know, the 7 lots you can see from the previous exhibit there with the setback from the bluff top. It's really kind of cutting into the developable area that, you know, any other normal lot would have to, you know, develop their home on. With that setback, you can see we've kept everything outside of the bluff top there. But the other homes off of Boca del Canyon, they're coming in from a lower area, so they're not higher than the bluff top right now. We're trying to maintain, the height limits from the top of that bluff. The one house coming in off of La Rambla is set back further than the neighboring property, as well as the houses down below are, kind of tucked back in. The public access at the bottom comes in kind of where the existing informal access is coming through as well. The public outlook area is something that we touched on, but that was an important aspect for developing, a master plan for the property too. Knowing that, it is an area that's enjoyed by the public already, and so trying to protect that space. The garages, I know that came up as a setback topic, but because it's coming in at a slope topography over there, there was that, I don't know what section it is in the zoning code, but it talks about bringing the garage. The interior portion of the house is actually set back to 20 feet on the 3 lots along Boca del Canyon, and then the corner lot, I believe it's lot number, the one on the corner there.
Lot 4.
Yeah, so that one touches a little bit closer, but that would be one that we would need to, discuss with the city further to see if that setback would actually be accepted. The retaining walls was another big topic that was brought up. The height of those is difficult, but because everything's going to be developed at the same time, those walls can be integrated with each home. So they would be shared between the properties. And then because they're terraced, we're trying to keep the mass of those walls towards the back of the lot so that they're not, viewed from the public side of the street. The water and any of the landscape comments can touch on, as well as Lee.
This is Lee Wang. Let me add on. If you want to see more details, he mentioned about the setback. We have a garage and then have a living portion of the building gets set back. If you look into the package, there's sections and there's floor plan showing that. That's number one. I'll add on. Number two is we do understand CD talking about the staging of our construction equipment and materials. The landowner understand that. We start talking to all the available big parking lots around here or empty lots to see if the construction do kick off. We can rent it. They'll probably use it as a temporary staging area. Caleb, you want to add something about this
Well, for
engineering?
water quality, we've been going back and forth on how treatment will be taken care of either with each lot or combining runoff and then treating it. Either one is an option, being we have so much fall to the street, so taking care of water quality with bioretention planners will not be an issue.
You're talking about just the WQM plant, the water quality
The water
management
quality
plan.
management plan, right?
Right, did you just look at general drainage in general, so it's not draining towards the bluff?
Right, there will be no runoff going towards the bluff. The top lot will be drained to the street, and the remaining lots will be drained down to
And is that achieved through what mechanism, gravity?
gravity flow.
So that's in your grading plan?
It will be. The grades we've kind of established grades. The upper lot might need a pump. I don't recall the one that drains to La Rambla.
Okay, but that was been civil engineered.
Right.
Keep going.
Oh, okay.
I'll be right back.
I'm sorry, your name was Justin, right?
Justin, yeah.
Justin, would you mind just highlighting where you're not, to your knowledge, this is not a hearing, so your best effort.
Sure.
To your knowledge, where you're not in compliance with the city policy or standards or zoning,
Yeah, to my knowledge.
highlight those areas if you
Sure.
don't mind.
Yeah, and Justin Johnston from Brown Architects again. But to my knowledge, the walls, site walls between the homes, as well as the setbacks.
So the site wall, can you just expand on what that is?
Yeah, so I don't know if it's able to zoom in on any of those, but between the lots, you can see there's some perpendicular lines kind of touching.
Does this help or you want to go back? I can zoom in on either of these.
It's okay.
If you can zoom in on that, the grading plan,
On the grading plan?
yeah, on that grading plan.
You can do it. You wanna move
That's
that?
okay. That's a great spot. So, kind of between these two lots, you'll see a dashed, a
Yeah.
long dash, a short dash, and a short dash. That's the property line between.
You're talking about this one right here.
That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you. There's perpendicular line work and hatches kind of coming into that area. Those would be the retaining walls between the properties, as well as a wall running along the property line that we're trying to integrate the water quality management that Caleb mentioned. So those heights of those walls, we've done our best, and there's a few that I can't remember exactly where they're at. That would be over the height limit as far
Okay.
as the 6 feet. And so we would need to study that further, try to gain any approvals that would be needed for any that would
How
go
high
over that.
are you at this stage? Obviously, this is preliminary, I wanna make sure
Sure.
where people don't get the impression this is final. So just
Yeah.
at this concept level, how high are you? Do you have them?
We don't have any over the 8.5
Okay, so they're between 6 and 8.
right.
There's one wall that's 10.5 at the back of lot 3,
Yes,
Okay.
not in the
but it's not, I don't think you can see it from
Right. Yes, so in those side yards, those would be the critical areas that would be viewed from the street, and then behind the properties would be that higher area.
Okay.
I think
and
the one that you're mentioning is lot 9, which is the longer lot that kind of comes
Yeah,
from Rochdale Canyon.
it's the new lot 3, right?
Yeah.
That's the old lot.
The front property line walls, I believe all those are complying with the 3.5 feet, and they're terraced. You can tell there's a lot of topography from the street climbing up that bluff side.
Mhm. And then where's the setback? Is it the corner lot there, number 4? Is that what you mean?
That's right. Yeah, you can see that.
And it's a front, it's a street setback?
Well, that's kind of what we would need some clarification on, but we would intend for that to be a front yard setback throughout that corner.
Okay. And it's currently at where? 3 feet, what did you say?
I
3
believe
feet?
it's at 10 feet.
10 feet,
Yeah.
okay. That's it? Just, that's, to your knowledge? that's
Those are
what
the
you-
areas that I recall. Yeah.
Okay, so with respect to, the bluff boundary 25-foot setback, you're fairly comfortable that you're there?
We're solely behind that line.
Okay.
And that was given to us as a design development kind of envelope. to
Do you have
state.
measurements anywhere on your plan showing the distance?
Um,
And Scott, if you can find it, that too. That's all, you can bring mine so you can use this whole space.
So that's top of the bluff line.
Yes.
That has been defined by, I just mentioned about 2 years ago, and that's the setback. Setback line, so everything's behind that. And then if,
And you're saying this area here is greater than 25 feet?
Well, they're saying that is 25
This is
feet.
25.
this is 25 feet.
This line is, this line
Yeah.
was just defined and agreed upon with the city, and then they just offset 25 feet.
Okay.
And then for each lot, the setback of each lot, because this drawing is very, just so much information.
Yeah.
Justin, they did a good job. If you look at each lot, they have enlarged site plan, actual site plan. It will dimension all the setback for each lot.
Okay.
For the audience, they're all looking at the same page. The bluff edge that we're looking at is here.
Okay.
That's the one.
So, and it looks like you're not proposing any landscaping in that 25-foot setback? You're just proposing to keep it,
Yeah, I don't
Natural.
believe there's any landscaping proposed right now. This lot would have, because it opens up to the same elevation as the bluff top.
Right.
Would have just on grade, pavers, to use as a patio space.
Okay.
is there a reason why you couldn't utilize that space?
I changed it up because we know coastal commission is very sensitive about that.
And
So-
water, you can't water it.
Yeah, you can water. So this is sort of the limitation we give to ourselves. all those olive green area, we're gonna keep as a natural.
Okay,
And all those behind it, it will be irrigated, will be the landscaping. That's what we try to do. You see that's top of the bluff. That's
I don't wanna get into discussion, I just wanna clarify where you think you're not in compliance. That's all I wanted to make sure before we get into discussion. Okay.
Right.
Did you have anything else that you guys wanted to present?
No.
Okay. Scott, I'm gonna go to the members of the public. Is that all right?
great.
Okay. So, so this is the chance for the public,
Yeah, we would watch some.
and anyone can speak. You keep it under, we'll just start with you. If you can say your name, and then you can address all your comments to me if you want, and then especially your questions. And like I said, I'll try and capture as much as I can and make sure in our discussion I bring them up. And then at the very end, if I've missed something or you've heard something that you want to comment on, I'm going to come back to the public at the end. So you get two shots today. How's that?
Great, thank you. Sure.
Yes.
Scrub,
Yes.
would you like us to do the timer?
Yeah, that'd be great.
And so
So-
our understanding is 5 minutes.
Okay.
That's how you said.
Let's do it for three.
Three.
At 3, we'll give you, hey, you're at 3, can you wrap it up?
Sure.
Okay.
And then if you could just state your name,
Sure.
and then before you start, and I'm just going to go from you all the way down, and if you want to pass, you can pass. Okay.
Well, thank you, Commissioner. My name is Tom Cullen. First off, I do have a question that I'll address to you, and then you can ask. The architect just said that none of the homes besides the one coming off of La Bramba are higher than the current height of the bluff today. It's my understanding that Lot 9's house goes significantly over the, on top of the bluff. So it would be higher than the bluff. So my question is that in fact true, or is it even with the bluff level, and how far does it come in? The bluff has a long history. As you probably all know, in the mid-60s, the bluff had a landslide, right? So this is a landslide area. The developer who bought the property, his uncle, several years ago, knew the risks associated with trying to build on this property. There's a street that extends out in the bluff owned by the city. It is our understanding that street that he's saying is a private street, or the developer is saying
Lot A.
is a city-owned parcel. I am asking that you do not give any of that to a developer so he can make money off the people of San Clemente. He claims he will build a viewing deck, but that deck will already be on your property. My property, the residents of San Clemente. Do not allow him to control it. You're now talking about a gate, talking about certain hours people can go there, right? Who opens the gate? Who shuts the gate? What are those hours? Sunrise to sunset. Do not allow him to control it. Do not allow him to change setbacks for driveways or bluff edges to accommodate his overdevelopment of the site. The bluff for the past 60 years has been a spot of joy for tens of thousands of people in the city. I have witnessed firsthand the following: family picnics on the bluff, weddings on the bluff, engagements on the bluff, spiritual gatherings on the bluff, religious services on the bluff, prom photos, homecoming pictures, people just pleasantly enjoying the beautiful view, little kids riding their bikes, paragliding, hiking, and all sorts of activities will disappear if you allow this to move forward as is. Again, the developer knew the risk in his purchase. I am not saying he should not be able to build. That's not my beef here, right? But as you can see, he's trying to shoehorn in on a very small piece of property that was a landslide, right? 6 homes that are 7,000 square feet that are way above the height requirements. So why should we accommodate a massive development at the expense of the residents? Please help save our bluff. It's a treasure to our city as much as our beaches, pier, and local vibe of San Clemente. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks for your comments and being here. Okay, great. What's your name, sir?
Lee Strother.
Lee, welcome. Bye.
Several critical view corridors have been identified across the coastal bluff by the Coastal Commission. Any new structure, its location, size, or height that is placed upon this property should not dictate the presence or location of the view corridors. Instead, the view corridors, again, identified by the Coastal Commission, should dictate the location, size, and height of any new structures. A second point, all view corridors across the coastal bluff have the advantage of no lighting that degrades the night views towards the ocean. It is important that any new light sources be kept to an absolute minimum so that night views are not degraded. A dark sky near the ocean is an asset in this neighborhood and in this location. My last points. Any proposed public viewpoint should be large enough to provide for the many group photos and group activities that occur here every year and every day. Local sports teams, weddings, graduations, school clubs, neighborhood sunset gatherings, and so much more. This is a very popular site where day and night people walk their dogs. It's also important that the dog walkers therefore are not confined to a small space. It is also important that the viewpoint provide unobstructed views of the beach trail and the shoreline in both directions. These will be important elements of a viewpoint that benefits both those who come to enjoy the view, check the beach conditions up and down the coast, as well as the use of this property by police, fire, and lifeguards to monitor enforcement and safety situations along our coast that only this location provides. Thank you.
Thanks, Lee. Sir?
I'm Pass.
You're gonna pass, okay? Sir?
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Bob Christie.
Bob, welcome.
Thank you. I'm the owner of 307 Boca del Canyon. I see it says Boca del Canyon on the exhibit. It's Canyon, C-A-N-O-N. And the house is almost directly up from that, directly across from, and I can.
You're kind of up, are you up here?
Can I illustrate?
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, I'm here.
Where it says 307?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so currently, this new proposed lot 3 is their lot 9, has access off of this private street. It's curb cut, it's here. They're proposing, by part of this development, is to reverse the curb cut down onto Boca del Canyon, which is in our opinion, overcrowding the street. I should also mention I'm the vice president of La Ladera's Homeowners Association. All of these lots currently reside in that homeowners association. I saw some.
Say that again.
These lots reside in La Ladera's homeowners association.
Okay.
Okay, because there was some writings about creation of a new homeowners association to maintain the potential of the viewpoint, which is a confusing point for me, I'll just say.
Okay.
But I predominantly want to talk about mass and scaling.
Great.
In our CC&Rs, and a prerequisite to this development inside of our CC&Rs is that they have architectural committee approval. In that, we would review our own CC&Rs. Inside of our CC&Rs dictates a 14-foot roof height for certain lots in our community, specifically lots 1 through 8, 11, and 18, which encompasses these lots here, 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 and here. The way our community is built is that everything that goes down this street are single-story, 14-foot high structures, as written into our CC&Rs, for the height of the ridge line, and we all conform to that. As you go around the corner, all of the front-facing homes are all single-story homes, with the back side of that street having 3-story homes, so that everybody gets a view of the ocean. That's how it was determined. I want to talk about the scaling of the
project as it comes down, not only the overcrowding of it, but the scaling of it. I think Lot 9, their proposed Lot 3, has a roof height, a ridge line height at median street, from the street at 52 feet in height, which dwarfs our homes and is, in our opinion, not only against our CCNRs, which won't gain our architectural committee's approval, but it just overmasses what we're looking at. Again, I'm also of the same accord. I don't think that I don't want to see an overscale development, but I'm not against development. I've actually spent my career as a contractor and a developer, so I'm quite familiar with all of the rules that these guys have to go through. I have another question. So mass and scale to me, and it's something that the previous applicant was aware of, and that we've made mention in both in writing to the city with previous planners. We've had a lot of correspondence with them with regards to that, and I haven't seen a whole lot of changes in the previous applicant's design elements to what they have currently today. So I'm still concerned about that.
Okay.
Secondly, in a previous iteration, and maybe you guys can determine this, but there was some armoring of the slope. We're also very concerned about the safety of our slope and the safety of our neighborhood. The previous applicant's grading procedures did include some armoring of the slope as part of their design element. And we wanted to ensure, knowing that the Coastal Act prevents or precludes any armament of the slope, we want to make sure that, I'm sorry?
I don't know if you heard the timer or not.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't. I'm sorry, I did not.
Yeah, you did just, you're on your last point. Go ahead and
Okay,
finish.
so that safety is maintained at its highest priority,
Yeah.
right? It's something that we're very concerned at as a community, so. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for being here and giving us your comments.
Sorry, I just didn't.
Larry, did you want to speak?
Yes, please.
Okay, Larry Culbertson, number 4.
I got your slide.
So in 1966, a landslide destroyed 4 homes that were located at the top of the bluff. And they threatened the homes on either side. The newspaper accounts from that time reported that a large block of earth slid on a clay seam that was 52 feet below the ground surface. The slide came close to covering the train tracks. The roof of the sewage treatment plant was crushed and the building collapsed. The Boca del Cannon Street buckled. Now, on some of the San Clemente sites where caissons had been employed, erosion has exposed those caissons, and it looks horrible. One of the last proposals for this site proposed 200 caissons. So is that the case here? There could be another 200 caissons that could get exposed. The massive excavation and caisson drilling for this project would certainly cause movement of the surrounding earth and would adversely affect the surrounding homes. When you look at the history of the site and all other sites along San Clemente's coastline, it does not look like it's a good idea to set us up for another catastrophe here. The public access, it's been almost 60 years since that bluff top was cleared away by the landslide. The site has become well known as a scenic lookout and entry point for the beach trail. This project would drastically alter that. The proposed viewing deck would be set back so far, sandwiched between 2 mansions, that the view would be greatly inhibited. Lot 7, the one that gains access from La Rambla, would have hardscape that was actually intruding into the 25-foot setback. Presumably with a wall and railing on top, that would further inhibit the view from that deck. I wanted more information about the access. You keep talking about access from down inside behind the lock gate. Not the gate at the top, but you gotta go through your arm to get into your community. It sounded like the only access was you have to walk all the way down the road, down the Boca Cannon to get to that access. So it seems to me that the best use of this property would be for a public park. Another thing popped into my head, I know it's gonna sound crazy, but ADUs are popping up everywhere. Would they be able to convert those garages to ADUs on that street that's already extremely underparked? And please look into that lack of a setback to that hardscape. Also, if you did allow that, why would the deck, public deck, not also be able to go out into that 25-foot setback? Why could it not be a hardscaped platform instead of a viewing deck? That's all I got, Cameron.
Okay, thanks Larry. Right on the money.
Right on.
You're a seasoned.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was well done, yes.
Okay, Amanda, did you want to go next?
Yes, please, thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, my name's Amanda Quintanilla. I'm a Sanctuary resident of over, it's 54 years at least. The next slide. I've been in strong opposition of these plans for years, and I just wanted to point out the prescriptive easements there that have our access to down to the beach and for a lot of events. And next slide, please. And it just another view of that. Next slide. And there's a lot of beach trails going down. Next slide. And next slide. And I think one more, please. One of the concerns that I have is that, you know, we've had landslides regarding, 2 landslides from regarding Buena Vista, Casa Romantica, which Mr. Culbertson mentioned about the clay. There was like sleeves of water that with the clay, it got wet and it slid off. And this is really important because if there's any problems we've had problems with Capistrano land formation, Monterey land formation throughout our city. If you look at St. Andrew's Church there, that's Monterey land formation, and there's been landslides there. We've been having landslides through on the coast as well. And so my concern is if we have any problems, it's going to be really, it's going to have a landslide right by our railroad. And we've already had problems with that, which is millions of dollars that they had to stop the rail lines. And so that's a major concern there. Next slide, please. This is one of the things that I'm really concerned about when looking at lot number 7, which in parentheses, lot number 29, which the one that is right above, you were having some questions regarding the 25 setback. This is the basement. And where is the egress well and what does that mean? Because, next slide, when looking at these plans, it should be, let me get up really quick, wouldn't that be right over here? And next slide, please. And I wanted to know what that is, because if this is a side view of the home, of the house, wouldn't that be the basement here? Wouldn't you show where that comes from? So where's the stairs going, leading down to the basement? So this is going to be a massive excavation. So you're going to have an excavation close to the beach, on the beach side. And I'm just really concerned of how much weight that's going to take. You're going to have a lot of foundation work to maintain that basement, Capistrano land formation, and then you have 2 other stories on top of that, so that's a really major concern for me. The safety aspects of that. Thank you.
Thanks, Amanda. Appreciate it.
I pass.
You pass? Okay.
I just have one question.
Can I just get can we just get your name for
Sure,
this?
Dolores Latier,
Dolores.
or Dolly, whatever.
Okay, she may ask you later what you spell your name right.
Oh, no, I don't understand.
You do? Okay.
I could spell dollar.
I have one question. You said the setback had to be 25 feet. And then the gentleman that's trying to build 3 houses up on La Rambla, he has to come back 60 feet? Why?
I'll have to write that down. We're gonna have to. And 3 houses up, you mean off of this, outside of this project?
Yes, you
Okay.
have the house that has the blue roof,
Yeah.
you have the Mortons, and then you have Paul.
I know a little bit about that.
All right.
We can get into it.
I'll let you, good, glad you got that. Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Great, thanks for being here. Okay. Like I said, we're gonna have our conversation now, and then for those that stick it out, you go, well, I have no idea. I'll come back to you if there's any closing comments you want to make or points you want to make. And my reason for doing that is, like I said, we're not approving anything. We're just really giving input to the applicant and giving input to the staff. Hope that makes sense. So if you have comments that you may want to make, you're going to make them to me, but they might be for the applicant to consider or for the staff to consider in their review. Does that make sense? And I want you guys to have that closing opportunity at the end if you need it. Okay. Scott, you're busy. Are you wanting to kick off the conversation or what?
Sure.
Yeah, okay.
Sure. I appreciate all of the interested parties that came and all of the points you brought up. Thank you. I'm looking at the tentative track map and note A, this is probably for Caleb. Easements to the city. So what's the purpose of, what's the purpose of that easement? Do you know?
Which,
Note 8
it's 8?
on the tentative track map.
You're on what page?
Well, the tentative track map.
Okay, just to like that, yeah.
Oh, so, can you zoom into where 8 is at?
So this easements within a deed in favor of the city of San Clemente recorded July 13th, 1955.
We got an 8 here, we got an 8 here. I think it's circumnavigating this.
That's an existing easement.
Right. And normally in easements it says, this is an easement for the purpose of private road or drainage or pedestrian access or whatever. Do you know what that easement is
I
for?
don't know what further
think-
detail offhand right now with that.
Scott, is that potentially what, let's see, was it Tom?
Our first speaker.
Yeah, that
Well,
was
he-
saying,
he's
hey, he thinks that's a public road. And I think that's what that easement is indicating.
Well,
Well,
it's that's what I'm asking is what's the easement for? Because it's not well, we don't know what it's for.
So I think the question is always, there's ownership and there's an easement, and I hope everyone understands the difference. So I can own something, or you can own something, but the city may, or a utility company may say, well, I want an easement, which just means they have access. And that access might disrupt whatever you've done with it. But if the best example is if a power company buries lines, and they have an access to your backyard where those lines are buried, and then you put a bunch of beautiful landscaping on it, but someday they need to go access those lines, they're digging up your landscaping to get access to those lines because they have an easement.
Yeah, but they don't have the underlying ownership. They just
Correct.
have
They have
access rights for certain purposes.
So I think for staff going forward in the vocabulary, the taxonomy of this project, it would be useful for this lot A, or what is called your private road, to really clarify. Is it easement the city has, or is it ownership? What is it?
Yeah, a couple things. We're gonna want a title report in the submittal, and then if there's an easement instrument, we're gonna want that.
To prove it.
look at the
To prove
document,
that it's private.
to look at whatever that purpose was,
Okay.
right? Because the note isn't really gonna give you the full
Yeah. And the
detail.
city can pull that too, right?
We
Yeah.
we would,
Any title company can call it, but
there would be a cost,
Yeah,
so the
applicant.
applicant would
Yeah.
typically give us that.
So that would be something that we should, if you want to ask them, but I think the city has a duty as well to know what it is.
Uh-huh.
And if the city has to cough up $25 or $100, they should do it and get that title report. Because I do believe we need to know this, down to the actual legal definition. What is the ownership of that? And if it's an easement. Okay.
So on
Yes.
can I add, on a previous iteration of this site plan, we went back and forth with Zach Thompson
Yep.
here at the city about ownership of that easement, and Zach determined that it's not city owned. So internally, we'll look at it again
Yeah,
and talk to Zach.
yeah. That's just an open, I think it's just an open issue. I think we just need to have the documentation. Zach's usually pretty good about that, but we'll pull that. So let's put a pin on the definition of the property rights of that lot A or private road that you guys are gonna follow up on that. You guys will follow up on it as well. We'll all compare notes.
The way I read this, and for what it's worth, I'm a registered civil engineer. This looks like it's privately owned, but there's easements in favor of the city for certain purposes across certain areas.
Okay.
So it's not public property that we're giving away, but the city has rights over certain portions of it to do certain things, like storm drainage or utilities or whatever. But we need to get the underlying documents in order to better understand that.
Yeah. Keep going, Scott.
There was, Tom brought up about lot 9 being higher than the bluff. And I don't know if,
It's lot 3/9, it's the big one.
okay,
This house.
okay. Is being not higher than the bluff, is that a requirement? Let's start there. Like, is there a requirement that it not be higher than the bluff? Before we start arguing about whether it is or isn't?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. Someone,
So there isn't a number, like a height limit
Right.
or anything, but there are policies and guidance in the documents that the planning commission would have to rely on, that development is to follow the natural topography.
Okay.
So it's kind of more loosely defined.
right, so typically the height requirement, and we'll get to Bob's
Yeah, Bob.
14-foot CC&R issue, which is separate from city codes, right? We're not evaluating it relative to compliance with some CC&R document. We're reviewing it relative to city codes. But normally that's each individual roof plane is evaluated and it's 25-foot maximum. Is that the case? Is that the code for these lots?
They did some calcs where they showed 25 feet. Now there are some differences of interpretation of how you measure the 25 feet. Usually you take the corners of
Right.
each significant point, but they did that calculation.
Right, and I saw that. So the height analysis. So our requirement is the traditional corners of the roof planes, 25-foot average, right? Is that accurate for this? Is that the zoning for this area?
But because it's a discretionary application, like Christopher's saying, the planning commission and the coastal commission are gonna take some leeway and say you have to fit it in with the topography of the site and with the surrounding homes. Maximum of 25 feet, but you could require less than that.
Okay. I'm curious about the 14 feet CC&R issue. Is city staff kind of aware of that or not? And I'm not saying that we're policing it. I'm just wondering.
I was not aware of it. No,
Okay.
so
And who the heck knows how theirs defines height?
correct, yeah.
So
I didn't even know they were in another
Yeah, what is the
subdivision, and I don't know
city's
what
role with
happens
respect
if you
to
have
that?
a legal lot and then you create a new subdivision,
Yeah.
and is that new subdivision bound by the rules of the old subdivision? But this is the first we heard of it.
well,
Yeah.
I would think that, and I of course could be wrong, but if this parcel of land is within the physical boundaries of the CC&Rs affect all of these lots, then presumably it's subject to those CC&Rs, but that's a private issue, not for the city to enforce or not enforce.
That would be
It-
recorded,
it-
wouldn't it?
Yes.
So we can
Yes.
verify that with the county recording.
Yeah, but then even if they reconfigure the lots within their lot, as long as if it's still subject to it. But again, that's not what we're evaluating. I'm curious.
I do
The
think
city
that-
does require approval of an HOA that has authority over property before we issue a building permit. We require some evidence that an HOA with the right authority has authorized development.
What if the HOA refuses to approve anything? I mean, the property owner, it seems like we might ask for that, but if the HOA refuses to give approval, that doesn't mean that the property owner doesn't have any rights.
Yeah,
develop.
in other areas, that's sometimes resulted in a lawsuit between the two private properties. The
Yeah.
city tries to stay out of it. The
Bob,
private
did you,
property
is
owner
that
has to
something you want to
adjudicate
give us?
with the
Is
HOA
that-
what's
is that a
allowed.
copy
We have
for
a
us?
copy of it, sure.
Okay,
But we try not to be the judge of that. We just say.
Well, you kind of are being the judge by saying you have to have approval from the HOA before we'll let you move forward. Like,
Sometimes the condition says either approval or evidence that no approval is required. That can be the way out, but that's usually building department action,
Zach, I
not a
think
planning.
It's part of the municipal code. There's provisions in there that says HOA's approval required to issue building permits for residential development.
and we have,
That's in the
that's how we kind of go to, when we have.
Yeah.
No,
I
yeah,
do want to
but-
make a note that approval is not necessary as a condition of your review
That's right.
through the entitlement
Got it.
process.
That's right.
It would be
Between
it would be necessary to issue building permits,
okay,
not to go through this process.
got it.
So I've just given what Bob Christie has provided, a photocopy of some information. He's giving that to you, Zach. I would like to add to the list, in addition to the title report on the road, that we verified HOA boundaries so that we definitively know. I'm sure you guys would want to do that too.
Yes.
That's great, interesting in development. Thanks for bringing that forward. Okay. So I think I want to make sure we're all moving along on this together. So what Christopher was saying is that if that in fact is the case, that will come up later down the road in the process, but up here in the city's process, it's not going to be a factor. Okay. Go ahead, Scott.
I think it was Lee, said that there's view corridors identified by the Coastal Commission and this impacts those.
Yeah.
That to me seems like a Coastal Commission issue, not us.
We have view corridors in our general plan. Is this in one of our general plan view corridors? No. Okay. We have designated view corridors, so that would govern, but this is not in that.
No.
Okay.
Yeah. The view deck. I don't see why it couldn't be pushed out more and enlarged. Why it needs to be a deck and back there. It seems like it'd be better if it was at ground level and pushed further out and then people could see north and south as they have. That seems like a reasonable request to me. I was wondering, this kind of wheelchair switchback here at the lower right southerly corner, could some stairs be put in there as well so people don't have to, do the big zigzag with the wheelchair ramp, so it could be more kind of friendly to people that were ambulatory. Bob brought up something about that the house is 52 feet high. I assume that's from like the basement foundation or something.
It's from the finished floor, and I used a cross-section of both the high and the low on the lot, the midpoint.
Right?
So it's giving benefit to the middle, not just to the low point, but from the midpoint to the top of the top ridge
Okay.
is 52 feet.
Okay. There's homes that, the way the city calculates height, you should probably become familiar with it, and it's probably different than what's in the HOA, CCNRs, whatever. But I'll just leave it at that. But the house would not be allowed to be 52 feet high or over 25 feet high based on the city's codes. So, but that's irrespective of, there's homes down by North Beach that look like they're 5 or 6 stories tall, and yet they comply with the 25-foot limit, the way that they scale back along the bluff. Having too much mass or scale, that's, kind of.
That's why we keep the
Can you leave it
door
open?
open.
All the way open.
Thank you.
That's a judgment. Slope safety and slope stability, and that's a general comment. Larry got some great slides from the past. That there would be extensive extensive geologic review of this site for it to be approved and buildable. And those will have to be approved by the city before it would be allowed to go forward. And it wouldn't go forward if it couldn't meet and comply with those. And if it has to sit on a field of caissons in order to, get down to solid bedrock and embed into that, then that's fine, and that's what it would be. But it would be safe. To be honest, someone talked about, I think it was Amanda, about, the weight of the structure with the basement and stuff. By removing the dirt is way heavier than the structure and then the house. So it's actually going to be less likely to, at least in not any specific location where you're removing a bunch of dirt, it's going to stabilize the slope and not destabilize it. Additionally, there'll be extensive water controls that our friend Caleb would design to control all the irrigation runoff and rainfall runoff. So it's, that water is going to be collected and get out of the site as opposed to what's happening now with natural runoff. As far as ADUs is state law. We can't control that. Yes, someone could build ADUs in those garages. Have you guys done a dirt takeoff? How many yards of dirt do we think are involved here in exporting with the site as designed?
We have not run an updated earthwork.
Yeah. We have old calculation, but we haven't run the new update version based on this.
How different is the old version to this version, like relative to site design? Is it generally similar, or no, it's significantly
It's
different?
still different because the old version building 7 homes. Right now, we only build 6 homes.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was the old
I
version?
don't remember what it is, but it's gonna be close to it because the layout of the home's kind of similar, but
Sure.
I don't remember what it was.
You don't remember 50,000 yards?
I don't want to make up a number.
Okay. Well, that'll be important to know. And has any discussion been had about, dirt hauling and timing?
We raised this issue at our sit-down meeting about a year ago with the city engineering staff and basically decided what Lee said, that they're gonna need an off-site location for staging and they're gonna need a coordination plan with how to circle trucks in there so they're not backing up on the residential streets.
Okay.
But, one truck at a time, once they leave, the next truck comes through, but it's gonna be a lot of trucks.
Sure. But yeah, the yardage will, help us figure out how many trucks that is.
Yeah,
Bob, did you
that'll
have
be part of the CEQA calculation. They need a plan, they need to know the number.
Right. Bob, did you have something?
I was just gonna comment, I remember the yardage being about 25,000.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I saw in here, it looks to me like there's walls, retaining walls that are like up to 14 feet high. Is that accurate? Am I reading this right?
Well, site retaining walls, the highest that we found was 10.5 feet exposed, and that's at the.
Show me on here.
It's here somewhere?
What am I reading here?
So here, so that's the exposed, sorry, yeah, there's 14.5, and 10.5 at the back of lot 3. Correct.
Okay,
These are the highest exposed behind lot 3.
okay. Thank you. And all these other ones, like in the side yards, are all stepped, right? As far as,
Those are all stepping down, right?
okay,
And for example, 6.5 exposed, 6 feet exposed, 4.5 feet exposed.
but from the beach trail, or even from the beach, have you guys done any kind of view thing to see if this is visible from?
We have not.
From
I
the
don't know
ocean
if,
side?
Brandon.
Initial studies, we kind of had something, but the top of walls on that sheet have the topo underlaid there. And so the one that I think you were looking at shows 87 at the top.
Right.
And the most adjacent uphill contour was 93, because it's pretty steep in that area. So you may see it as more of a curb in some instances, but not a wall.
No, yeah, you're not going to see the 14 feet
Right.
of it.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm not sure exactly how much, but you know,
Okay,
you
so
may catch a curb height of it.
you guys are probably familiar, or you have just learned in the staff report that there are wall height maximums. So I think if you wanted to try and justify taller walls, you would want to say, hey, here's the view from the sand, here's the view from the beach trail, you can see an exposed 2 feet of it or whatever,
Absolutely.
right?
Just to note that to exceed like that 8.5 foot wall height, and if it's not entirely facing the property, then that's a variance. That would require a variance, which you have to meet the special findings. That without those walls, you'd be deprived of a property right for other properties with similar zoning.
Okay.
And that goes for something like the subdivision standards. If you have currently lots that all meet the 6,000 square foot minimum of the lots, and you choose to move the lot lines and reduce the lots to be below the development standards, that is not provided for in the zoning code, so you would need a variance to do that. And you need to prove that you have to do that in order to have a property right. That's a reasonable property right.
Yeah, so that's something to look at too, is the lot sizes. I'm sure you guys already have, probably 10 ways to Sunday.
Sure.
Do these lots have an FAR requirement?
I don't think we do that for residential.
Okay.
There's a coverage requirement. You can only cover so much and the rest of it has to be permeable, but there's no square footage FAR count.
Okay. Do you know if, as proposed, they meet the landscape coverage requirements? Or do you guys know?
We don't know yet, but that's what we're working on, because we have so many layers of retaining wall and front yards. So we'll try to achieve that,
Got it.
yeah.
Yeah, they probably meet the overall coverage, and
Yeah.
I think they will have to accomplish the low impact development water quality, but they might not have enough directly in the front yard setback area, because a lot of that's like the driveway.
Okay. How does staff feel about gates here to the viewing area?
It's natural grade.
It's natural grade. So if you don't mind jumping back, just on the wall height.
Sure.
In some areas of the city, it's measured based on natural grade, which we would interpret to mean after the landslide happened, so natural as of today. In some areas of the city, it's based on the grade after construction. This is a natural grade area, which means that the wall heights, even if it's covered, backfilled by fill or something, you measure it from the bottom, which it sounded like Justin already knew. If he was measuring at 14 feet, even if you only see 4 feet, that's still a 14-foot wall, and that's still a variance.
Right.
Or 12, even if it's 10 or 12 feet.
Okay. How do you guys feel about gating the access to the view deck?
We've talked to beaches, parks, and recreation staff about this. Our initial question for them is, do you guys think it should be a city park? And does BPR want to manage this as a city park, where we try and get the applicant to give the city another easement, but widen the scope of the easement to say that it's for any public access 24 hours a day, and the city will maintain and manage it? And the response from BPR was that wouldn't be what we've done in other areas of the city. There aren't any other parks this small. There aren't any other access ways that have been turned into view decks like this. The nearest comparison would be Marblehead, where the city does some maintenance, but there's also some maintenance by an HOA. The inclination from them was they didn't really want this to be city maintained, and that they felt an applicant HOA could be more on the ball in terms of ongoing maintenance, security, calling OC sheriffs if there's a problem. So for that, that's why the gate came in. If you don't think there should be a gate, it could still be applicant maintained, but public access 24 hours a day.
Right. They requested the gate, right?
Yeah.
Or you guys didn't suggest it?
No.
They're requesting it.
Under the assumption that they'd have to privately maintain it.
Well, they're going to have to privately maintain it with or without a gate. Okay. That's all my questions for now.
Okay.
I'm gonna go through my comments and I'm gonna make sure I go through all the public comments. So, as I mentioned at the very beginning, which may not have made sense at the time, normally design review, we're very much into the weeds of the final application before it goes to planning commission to tighten it up, make sure everything is according to design guidelines. Tonight or today, that's just really not really going to be our scope. So for the applicant, what I want to do, because I'm going to go through a lot of stuff, and I can give you my notes later if you want them, but mine are just bars, hurdles, questions. So when you do submit an application, these are all the things that, from my perspective, I'll be looking for you to have in your application that you're addressing. So, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Right? Instead of telling you what to do, I'm just saying, can you show me how you're compliant with these concerns, or addressing these concerns, or compliant with city standards, and do it explicitly and in a way that you can demonstrate it. So, I want to just kind of give you my also one more preamble thing, which is we're really residents. We live here. And we're really here not just to be appointed officials to represent the city, but we're here as residents with our resident biases. And so I think part of that is going to come through here. So I want to start off by just telling you that from my perspective, I think the main question is whether what is reasonable development? Like at the high level, what is that? When you look at this with this site, if you just zoom out, what is, I understand if you're the owner and your perspective, you're trying to achieve a certain goal, but if you zoom out from the community perspective, what would you consider reasonable? And I think that's a question we, as a appointed body, will probably be wrestling with. And we'll be using a lot of your information to try and answer that, as well as public comments and public input. So I'm going to be looking at how did you come up with your designs and the support for your number of lots given the situation of this site. So you've got this, your claim is that you've got 6 and they're going to work. So that's where I'm starting from, but I really want to know when you submit your application how you're going to meet all the standards with the 6 lots. Because my reoccurring theme is it 6? Is it 5? Is it 4? What's the optimal balance for the site, for the community? If you understand, do you understand the greater point I'm trying to make? Okay, thanks. So an example might be, we've got a lot of land use policies around hazards. There's a whole bunch of them, and there's at least a half a dozen where the geotech studies need to show an FOS of greater than 1.5 without coastal armoring. So that's going to be a deep dive to prove that. Because with the setbacks that account for, the thing about this is that it's not just the setback of the current bluff line, it is an engineered setback where you consider the 75 years. This must be stable and safe for 75 years, and you must include in your calculations the SLR, which is the sea level rise. You have to, and any other natural factors which would erode the bluff over 75 years, because I think that the going in understanding is whatever you get approved, that's it. You're not able to come back and say, oops, we had movement, we need to re-armor. That's going to be a no. That's going to be a red tag on that property. And I want to make sure you guys are understanding that. It has to be within the 75 years without coastal armoring. So that's really a threshold, and that's going to be back to my, okay, so what is the reasonable development? What is the right number of lots? And, I've got my eye on lot 7. Like, to me, that's the one I've got a question mark on, just to put my cards on the table. got a question mark on that one. And what I just said is applying to that one in particular. I think we all agree this is an active landslide area. It's gonna require some engineering caissons and extensive fill, right? So there is a fundamental land stability issue. It's not a design issue, it's a land stability issue. And our coastal standards prohibit major land form alteration. So unless it serves a clear public benefit, a geological report with, in my opinion, a robust EIR is going to be needed. And the key here is public benefit. So so Lot 6 is a great example of a public benefit. But I think there's feedback that we're hearing that's kind of we can discuss maybe the value of that, or how we could improve that public benefit to maybe when you guys get up against a tough edge and you need an exception, we can look at, oh, you're providing these public benefits, we can provide these exceptions. That's kind of how we can justify giving exceptions and variances, by looking at the offset of the public benefit you might be providing. Okay, so let me just move on. So I've just mentioned about a full geotechnical and slope stability investigation. And I would like to see, as part of the EIR, a construction, not just the construction staging, but a haul route analysis showing truck counts, noise, dust, safety, all of that regarding fill and removal and grading. And I'd also like to see where you plan on armoring, if you plan on armoring anyway, and any landforms you're going to change with the grading. So that, because there's just no way this is an exemption or a negative deck. I think since this is a very complex issue, remedial grading probably won't work, and yet you've got grading restrictions. This is the issue. This is where the landowner really needs to be educated so that he understands how he's going to have to work with the city in order to achieve his objectives, and the city will have its objectives to make sure it's safe, but also that there's public benefit. And this is where we want to be able to ensure we're working together. Mm-hmm. Okay. I already mentioned about the 75-year bluff retreat, and that your structures remain safe without armoring. I hope that you have your bludge edges certified, and I believe if you have a civil engineer, we'll need to see a stamp on that. This has to be also self-mitigating, okay? So the project must be far enough inland to be safe for its expected lifetime without ever needing the bluff protection devices. And that's why I think we need to be more conservative with our setbacks, our house and deck string lines. And there is a bunch of zoning code that you can look at. This, Zach can help you find it in our coastal zoning standards for infill development along bluffs that define a lot of that. As well as the other thing I noticed is kind of like lot 3, lot 5, we've got to make sure that the buildings are aligned with that existing home so nobody feels that one's more seaward than another, and we have to keep that pattern. We have to establish that pattern and keep it. So to reiterate and summarize on stability, our land use policies do discourage shoreline protective structures for new development and promoting preservation of the natural landforms, hazard minimization, and public views. That is our policy. So when you are communicating with the owner, that's it right there. We discourage shoreline protective structures. Our policy is to promote preservation of natural landforms, hazard minimization, and maximizing benefits. Okay, public views. The other thing that I'd like to see is where you're gonna deal with your trash enclosures, where those will be located, and make sure that, and the screening for the trash enclosures, to avoid any street clutter.
There you go.
Okay, and then regarding subdivision, I think the question's gonna be if each lot has an adequate buildable envelope. After your setbacks, without excessive grading and without really large, tall retaining walls. That gets back to my initial premise. Can you fit 6? Will you have a buildable envelope? And I want to encourage you to be open to that. Okay. A comprehensive utility and drainage easement plan on your tentative tract map. That's important to see that you have all the back drains, and one of your clues is if you can't be compliant with all the back drains, then your lots are too tight. So groundwater control is really important. So keyway drains, buttress drains, if some pumps, whatever you need to do, as you know, and it was referenced by members of the public, we've had a number of bluff failures. Some would say they're due to this groundwater lack of control, and it's just natural drainage with just even the rain, let alone neighboring property watering and landscaping and the gravity coming down towards your site. And then over time, it's going to degrade that bluff structure. So that's why I think a hydraulic analysis is important, because each drain is going to have to be carefully engineered so that it's not viewed as coastal armoring by proxy. So we're looking at gravity drain systems that would be going to inland or would be preferred, so that we don't have armoring by proxy with these different kinds of drain structures. Okay. The other thing would be, we already talked about recorded public easements, and now we have the HOA to look at. The lighting was brought in, so we really need to have a dark sky lighting plan to ensure that there's no glare or low glare, whether it's lighting from the homes, or it's signage, or it's landscaping, a perimeter, whatever that is. We'll just need to make sure, and there's a lot of products, there's a lot of ways of doing that. That's not hard. The previous stuff I think is hard. That's easy. I think there should be a view shed study that you do from your proposed public lookout to see if there's any significant obstructions of the beach trail or views going north and south. I think, I've already mentioned, I'm looking at lot 7 as with a suspect eye, and that could be a remedy for that. Okay, so moving on to massing and scale on your streetscape. I think Scott mentions your massing does need to step with the topography, and we want you to avoid box forms and not to let the garage dominate. You'll reduce any front setbacks. So if the steep topography may push driveways past your allowable grades, then you may need to redesign a split level. Or if the grades are exceeding our standards, that's another signal that the lots are too tight, and they may not be naturally developable because of that. And you may need to give yourself relief. I'd like to see top of wall elevations on your plans so that we can see the step walls, and that's part of our separation rules. And that's to help you avoid a redesign. Because a lot of times people come in and they don't do that, and then we're like, we gotta see, you gotta go back. And I'm trying to, that would be nice not to, if you didn't have to do that. So moving on to grading. This is really for bluff safe standards, right? It's for your protection. It's for the community's protection. I mean, that is our number one responsibility as a public agency, is public safety. And in this particular capacity, the bluff stability is where it comes into play. So looking at your cut and fill, that's going to be something we're going to have to scrutinize, and we're going to want to see it minimized. And that's why I mentioned earlier your hauling plan as well, and your retaining walls meeting those height and step rules, and that any planted terraces and just the drainage that goes with that too. Again, make sure it's tied back to bluff standard. So basically, the question's going to be to you when you come before the public. Please demonstrate how this is bluff safe, how the bluff will be stabilized, how your development enhances and strengthens the stability of that bluff and brings community benefit by those investments. So to the members of the public, I would say that this project can benefit the public in more ways than just providing view access and public access. It can provide it by strengthening what we know is a landslide area, historically at least, if not more, active. How can this project actually support your project, your homes, and keep that stable and protected long term? Okay. Erosion, I think I touched on this, but because I'm in my grading comments, I just want to reiterate erosion control, sediment plans, especially near the bluff edges. So stormwater drain plans, how runoff is handled. Absolutely no discharge over the bluff, obviously. But the city does have a lot of standards around that, and that's where your grading is going to come in and be, a lot of times we get into this chicken or the egg. Well, that's in the grading, that comes when we do building permits. That's not up at the entitlement. That's one of the staff's favorite things to me. Hey, you're getting ahead of yourself. And I'm not doing, we do development permits, not the building permit. We're way upstream of the building permit. But in this case, I'm really going to push my welcome with the staff and say, I want to make sure that we really understand the grading plan up front before we do entitlement, and avoid, to the degree we can, the armoring and a grading scheme that's just not compliant with protecting the way that the policy reads. Okay. Low impact development, LID, I call it LID, but it's low impact development, which is a stormwater engineering concept. Obviously, I've mentioned again, I'm going to just say it over and over again, we want to make sure we're draining away from the bluff, no over bluff discharge, and that needs to be demonstrated in every element of your planning. Okay. Let's see here. I just want to, for the residents or others that may be trying to understand some of this, I used the phrase self-mitigating earlier, so I just want to make sure we're all on the same page that means that the project must be located far enough inland that at the time of approval, it is safe. The bluff is safe. The neighboring parcels and sites are safe for an expected lifetime of typically 100 years. And that would be without shoreline protection devices. Okay. I'm not going to get into technical things about sea level rise and historical erosion rates, but I mean, your geotechnical report has to be thorough. I just want to make sure that we have all the right engineering, calculations between erosion rates, project life, equal safety factor. Just want to make sure all these calculations are very well documented, very transparent, and easy to follow. Okay. Now to Tom's comments, the height. There's obviously, so what is the height restriction here? What would be the city's height restriction?
25 feet from natural grade measured at key points of the building in relation to the natural
So
grade.
we're gonna need to see that you are within that standard. And that's probably something that will be hard to go against the public, right? That's our standard.
They provided a refined analysis
Okay.
for each home. Making this
Again, I don't wanna go through, I just wanna make sure,
No,
be
we
compliant.
already have, yeah.
Yeah, be compliant. We've talked about the gate, I think that's an open question. It probably is something that needs to be really thought through in terms of, is that real public access, you know? And we need to, that needs to be worked out. The view deck, we talked about that in the analysis of the view. I've already told you, I think Site 7 is an area where you might be able to give yourself some relief on all sides. But I don't know, I'll leave that to you, I'm just asking questions. Talked about the view corridor, then the lighting, the public view. I think it was a good point. If you really want this to function as a public benefit, we do want to make sure it's large enough to accommodate the public. And I think you heard, I think the public was really, you know, they're taking their time to come here and, you know, and they're sharing their experience, and I think I welcome that, right? And they're telling us the high school's coming down. I mean, what a better way to integrate into the community than to have this be something that the community sees as an asset and it becomes the place to go for special occasions, right? Okay, so you want to make sure that that functions in that way. And it's not a token, it truly functions that way. We have some homework to do with you, Bob, on the HOA. The safety, you mentioned the safety of the slope. I think I covered a lot of that, so I hope that's covered. Same with Larry and the number of caissons and all of that. And Larry's view obstruction as well with lot 7. I think I've mentioned that a number of times, maybe to the point of too much. Amanda, the landslides, I think I've tried to, you know, make sure that that's going to be fully addressed. And then we need to make sure that someone mentioned that we need to follow the topography. So that's, Scott, I pretty much am a wrap. What do you?
I'm good.
Did you have some dialogue that you guys, and then I want to give you guys the lightning round at the end. But did you guys want to have any further conversations, or do you have questions of us?
Why don't we let the public
Do it, and then you guys can respond.
in case
or
there's
whatever.
something that comes up in there.
Yeah, I'm gonna start it with, back here again with Tom, and then give you guys just a minute, just to give you a wrap of your sense of what you heard and.
Sure, and again, I think that I'm not here to tell them no development. That's not my position here. My position would be that it would be great if they would come and talk to the people around the development and maybe listen to some of our input into what they plan on doing. Again, I still have the question of what Josh, the architect, said about no rooftop will be higher than the bluff top right now. And that was never really, I know it's 25 feet, but is that the way it is designed today, besides lot 7? That is?
Oh, I was gonna let you finish.
That's really all I have.
And by the way, you guys can kind of, I'll
Afterwards.
use the word corner, go over and chat with them
Exchange
directly.
some information, and
So-
we say, hey, I'd like to invite you to our community, we'd like to hear what you have to say, we'd like to give you input. Now's the time, because even though it looks like this is ready to roll, this is not ready to roll. This is wet cement, they know it. But to their benefit, they put a lot of money and time to get it to this point. But this is the time to engage in those conversations, for sure. So I would welcome you guys to exchange the contact information. Did you?
I would like to represent my uncle to say something to everybody, and I appreciate all the surrounding neighbor come over to providing us, precious comments. Also, the city staff helping us out, trying to get through this project. So I have to give you guys some sort of a background for my uncle, so you guys can understand who we are. So so you can So he is he was born in 1957. He's approximately 70 years old. So he's retiring. So his son just attending Subcommittee High School. So they want to get retired in United States, now in China. So he owns one of the biggest private construction companies in China. So he understands construction a lot. So he understands your concern, you regards, especially a lot of trucks gonna come over this tight neighborhood that will just disturbing your life. So he understands all the situations. So, but what I try to say is, he doesn't want to make a profit out of this. So he is using one of the lot to building his dream house, and also he's building one of the house for his son. He has one son only, attending the high school here, and then he's also building one of the house for me. That's it. So I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that's it. So there are 3 more lots if this is approved by the city, of course by the neighbors. So those 3 lots, he just of course trying to recover some partial of the construction cost. This construction will not be easy. I might be spending $30-40 million. So that's his purpose. He's not trying to make a profit. If as a developer, right, he can just sell them all to the public. Just like you said, Mr. Tom, making all the profit, right? But he's not doing this. So I just appreciate guys for coming. That's all my comments.
Okay. I want to move back to.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so Lee, did you have something that you wanted, last thoughts?
The thought I have is, as far as the private street goes, my understanding is it is a city street. I think dedicated to the city years ago.
Okay.
Logic would say that if you don't have lot yet, we have 4 houses, and you said, okay, you can dedicate it to the city, or you can give it to the city. I mean, I would give it to the city, let the city maintain it, instead of the owners out there maintaining that street at their expense. So I think years ago, and we've been through this over the years, I believe, and I can't sit here with this argument, it was dedicated to the city.
They're gonna check into that, and title reports will have that. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, Bob, did you have any? We skipped you, you're still being skipped?
Yeah, good.
Okay, Bob?
You hit the nail on the head, which is the 1.5 safety factor, right?
Yep.
From my perspective, from the development standards, and knowing where coastal's gonna go with it, with regards to the armoring on the slope side. So you covered that for me, I appreciate that. The mass and scaling is still something that we're very concerned of as a community as a whole. From our HOA standpoint, I understand that the city has their own guidelines that they have to look at, right? And I do understand the calculation of the roof height, right, from the 4 corners. But again, it's where is that lot today? What is the proposed lot? And does that change it substantially to the benefit of the developer or for the detriment to the homeowners that live there currently? So something that I would like just to see addressed.
Well said, and I would like to put it in context. I did not really focus on that because I feel like we have to let the science of the engineering lead to the site plans. And I feel like that's where you need to go, and then you'll come back maybe with alterations. So rather than sinking a lot of time into what you got now, have you do all this, and if you make adjustments, and then you come back, well, then we'll sink our energy into those, designs and massing and all the rest. But do be mindful, obviously, that's something. And having view simulations from both sides would be useful to show the community. This is when you finally settle up. Like, I still feel like it's wet cement, right? So when you get to that point, then I think it would be worth you investing in some view simulation so that people can see those, and then we can have an informed discussion about roof lines, all the rest.
Thank you.
Bob, thanks for being here. Good stuff. Larry?
Yeah, you covered everything
Yes,
very
sir.
well. I was curious about one point, kind of minor, that gate.
Yeah,
If they're not complying with opening the gate, what kind of recourse does the city have to get that gate open? How would that work?
yeah. I think that to me is way down the road. I'm glad we're bringing it up now, but yeah, we'll have to figure all that out. I think if these things do tend to kind of sort themselves out, like if they're really in Bob's HOA, maybe Bob's HOA is running the gate, who knows? But I think it will self-sort it out as we get untangled.
Or is there a gate at all?
Yeah, or maybe there's no gate, right. Amanda, any last thoughts?
Yes, I do. Actually, I left the room to see the GCIS map and to click on lot number A. And I know Christopher left, but we couldn't access anything on that. And it's my understanding when I submitted a opposition letter in 2022, and I do take notes when I speak to city staff, that that was city-owned property. And as far as statements from Mr. Hodson, I definitely know that he has mentioned certain things that were not accurate, so.
We'll research it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I know with the GCIS.
A title report is what we're gonna rely on.
When looking at that, the person in the front desk was clicking on it and nothing came up. Like when you were clicking on this, there was some information that Christopher read off, but when clicking on that lot number A, nothing came up.
Mhm.
So I think it was the apartment road for this, owned by the city, and yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And my concern also was at the gate as well, because
Yep.
actually getting rid of beach trails that are accessible, not just the one down in Boca de Canyon, but there's other beach trails that go through, and there's been prescriptive easements going down to the beach trail. Kind of like going to Lawson's Beach, or locals call it Lost Winds. You have that beach trail between one home and to the other, and through the years, everybody's gone down there through decades.
Right.
And as a longtime resident, me, people have gone, gone down to the beach access, and not just going down in this one, in this area, but through
Yeah,
other
the shortcut.
areas. The other,
Yeah, you can just see the trash trail.
Yeah, exactly, right, exactly, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think the California Coastal Commission really is.
That's a public benefit.
Right,
kind
it
of thing
is,
that
it's a
people will look
concern
at.
regarding getting rid of beach trail access, so that is a major concern for me. And then having that gate, and that really, that's a concern there, because you're not being accessible to the public. Thank you.
You're welcome. Did you pass and
I
Dawn?
was just concerned is why this project is only going back 20 feet, where the gentleman up 3 or 4 houses up that wants to build, he has to come back 60 feet.
Yeah, that's a technical thing the staff will figure out, and I don't know the answer to that, and, yeah. But they've got a note of it, okay.
I mean, simply put, it's driven by the geology of the property and what findings are in studies. So
That's right.
it's not a hard rule that always it's 25 feet. It depends upon the analysis that we get on each project and what is necessary for geology reasons to have the setback. So it'll depend on information we don't even have yet.
This is zoning control,
Okay.
zoning work. I had one more note to add on top of that. That was based on a site-specific study, which this property owner will also have to do to identify the geology of this site-specific location, like Christopher said. This property owner wanted to have their house closer than 60 feet, and the coastal commission set them back. So there's every chance that the same thing could happen here. The city might approve a plan that's more massive development, and they might get told by the coastal commission that, no, sorry, you have to move back further. That's a reason to listen to Cameron's comments about doing a thorough study in the first place and being cautious and conservative and justifying your findings for how you've taken into account erosion and sea level rise, so that you don't design a full set of plans and then have the city approve it and the coastal commission not approve it, because this property owner has spent years redesigning their plans again.
Sure.
Also, I'll add that and we've done this before on this project from what I remember, is trying to reach out to the Coastal Commission, you know, if we may do that, you know.
Well, we had a
to try
call
to be
with them.
proactive, right? You already did that.
Yeah, and also we've talked with respect to your comments about prescriptive rights and trails and public access. We had a discussion with coastal staff about that, and they've written some comment letters to the applicant from coastal staff to the applicant about that, which we could share if you request.
Oh, that'd be great, yes.
Okay. Sir, anything you'd like to share before we wrap this up?
Yes, thank you, Cameron. First of all, I want, again, thanks committee, thanks Steve staff, and thanks all our neighbors. I know you guys know the history of this project more than us, right? You may even know the owners like 2 generations ago, right? And so I trust you guys understand where we scaled down the development scope. And we're probably, based on my understanding, we're the first, I don't want to say developers because the owner's building his dream house, we're the first, for lack of a term, developers really give that lot 8 and lot 6 back to the city. I hope everybody understands that. And we are going to work with neighbors and cities, okay, to make sure you understand his building his dream house, he want to benefit everybody, not just driven by the density and the height. And so that's how I want to tell you. And yes, we have lots of homework to do. We'll go back. Cameron and Scott's, your concern and comment, we'll address it. And then especially for the geotechnical study, it has been done so many times and the conclusion is safe, otherwise the owner won't spend so much money on this set of plans. So we'll work together with community, city, and neighbors to make sure we can have a successful and safe project.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate that.
I think that, Zach, does that conclude this item from your perspective?
Yeah, we touched on a lot of issues. We took notes, and we'll discuss it with the applicant team.
No other further things you'd like to have guidance on or discussion of or clarifications?
I'd like a little guidance, I guess, from the two of you on whether you're comfortable with the reduced setbacks, which the code allows for, whether you're comfortable with the reduced setback on the house and the garage. The code technically allows it within 5 feet. I think some of those garages are even closer than 5 feet, so that would be in variance territory, which might be justified given the smaller lots, again, on the Boca del Canyon side. Whether you want them to try to stick with the 5 feet that the code allows, or whether they go to 0 feet for the garages.
Yeah.
And then was there anything, whether you're comfortable with the lot sizes? From my perspective, they've already got 3 non-conforming lots. They would still have 3 non-conforming. They could totally rejigger this whole thing, but Scott, I think you were saying they'd probably already thought about 20 different configurations. It would be difficult to get 6,000 square feet on some of these lots.
I think one of a big thing that came to mind when I looked at this and reducing the lots below 6,000 is there's going to be a need for the team to explain why you've done that for the purposes of meeting the policies that Commissioner Cameron Cosgrove had gone over. So what is the benefit and what is the need to have lots smaller than 6,000 feet or 60 feet wide in order to meet the policies and to have a reasonable property right? So that would mean to push it away from the bluff and have a home that isn't, excessively large, but it's reasonable. That's something we're going to be looking for.
Zach, to answer your question without answering it, my thinking at this point, sir, with all respect, is there are a number of stressors and indicators that would, to me, that would suggest that there are too many lots and that the lot, your lot configuration is the key to moving forward. And to really, that's why I gave you the comments and the way I did, to have you be open to revisiting that, to give yourself relief where you need it, public benefit where you need it. And rather than answering your question with a yes, I'm comfortable, no, I'm not, I'd rather answer it more the way I just did. That I do believe that is the answer lies in the configuration of your lots with what you have, and that there are a number of indicators to me that says that needs to change. How you change that, up to you. But I'd rather see them go through that analysis with everything else, the geotech, the non-armor, all of that, and then come back, because if they change that lot configuration, that question is moot or maybe not. So I want to push back to you and say, you need to be within standard, we're looking for public benefit, and we're looking to work together with you. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I hope that's clear, without being clear.
So I guess do we have a plan that shows the existing, because they are already reduced A lots. So do we have a plan that shows?
I mean, that's what these dotted lines are trying to show.
I'm not constrained by what was.
No, okay, but I have a comment, which is that they're already reduced one. So I'm curious, how they could develop the existing lots, the existing more lots. Would they be taking access off of that private road, I assume?
What's the question? From you.
I think he was trying to get back to your setback question.
So basically, it looks like they converted old lot 28 into a
Yes.
view lot.
These are some of the things Zach and I were comparing, like GIS with the plans, and what appears to be is there's a lot closer to the cul-de-sac down at where the Boca del Cañon turns, and then facing that street where they section those lots a little bit differently. Yeah, so the changes to us look like they're primarily driven at reorienting the properties. It seemed like to push the homes further away from the coastline.
Right.
But yeah,
They gave away this lot, this would be open space and public deck, and then this one used to be 2 lots, it was cut off here. They're now not building much here, their house is kind of here, but they're taking access from here. So this used to be 2 lots, they're not using most of the oceanfront portion anymore, they're mostly using here. So doing this necessitated making this and this and this smaller, and here's your 3 non-conforming lots. So essentially by making 2 of the ocean ones less developable, they made these more developed.
Right. And those lot sizes could be played around with by moving the lot lines a little.
You could move them a little this way, if you moved your little private road here, you could maybe make them conforming.
Well, you probably can't, easily move the private road because the easements are recorded where they're at. So unless you got the easement holders to agree to relocation.
Well, I think that's what Cameron wants them to do, is remove lot 7 and make the road and public access be more over here, which would allow this area to be more of the developable area.
It's more of a gentle suggestion.
Yeah, may I add
Yes,
on?
sir.
I mean, the reason we're doing this because we don't want to complicate things. You see, we try to respect the private road or public road. We'll figure it out. We try to respect the boundary of that road, then give that best view, that lot 6 to the public.
Yeah.
That's why lot 7 is there. But I totally understand what you're saying. We'll study
And yes, and I think if the city's if it turns out that the road belongs to the parcel, but the city's the easement holder, and you look at the orientation of all the gutters and curbs and drainage, and you're like, we gotta redo this, right? It's been destroyed. And you wanna make adjustments, and the city ends up being the only lien holder, we would like to work together.
That'll be great because right now that lot line just existed on paper. We all know when you go to the sites, there's nothing there.
There's nothing there.
Yeah.
And you're gonna have to reconstruct it anyways, and so optimizing that for drainage and all the rest, we wanna work together. Let's just be partners in the spirit of getting to an optimal solution in
Sure.
that way. Okay, that's how I wanna leave it, if that's okay with you, Zach.
Well, relative to my comments regarding setbacks and things, I mean, I'm kind of generally okay with, reducing it along the Boca del Cañon side to enlarge that. Now, maybe the houses are too big within the lots themselves, but I appreciate a lot of the effort that's gone in here and a lot of the, I would say, concessions, especially around relative to, creating a view, access and so forth.
Maybe a good spot to end? Are we good ending here? Very good. Thank you, everybody. Scott and I have a few things we're just gonna do, but if you wanna stick around and have informal chat? Scott, no new business or old business, right?
No.
No one else wants to address this for oral communication? Not on the agenda?
No.
I will move the adjourn to the next, regular meeting of the design subcommittee to the October 29th. All in favor, yes? We're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve Strawberry.
Yeah.